What's up, hikers and mountaineers? Welcome back to another episode of the Baada Summit podcast. I'm your host, Kiprono Letting. And my guest today, special guest, Peter Naituli. Karibu sana.
Asante.
Peter Naituli is a rock climber, mountaineer, technical mountain guide. Let me start with a few things. He guides trips up Mount Kenya and mountains of the north, such as Ololokwe and the Ndoto Mountains. He's the youngest technical guide ever to lead a Mount Kenya Batian expedition at age 16. He's the first human in history to free solo a technical peak in Mount Kenya without shoes. He's also the first human in history to free solo the main face of Ololokwe. That's in northern Kenya. So, karibu sana.
Asante.
These are things which are super crazy, especially free soloing. For people who don't know what free soloing is, that is climbing a mountain without a rope to aid you or anything.
We shall get there to all those definitions because there are very many.
So, let's just start like your early years, because now you are a mountain guide at 16 years old. So, like, how did you get into climbing?
Ooh, we have to break it down a bit. Also, I have to let you know my voice today is a bit funny. It might break because I've been shouting so much when I was on the mountain this last week, shouting on these commands. So sauti naisha inakuja inaenda.
But I think uko sawa.
So I've always been active, even as a small kid. So I grew up in the Rift Valley in Nakuru. I was very interested in wild animals. And I mean, when I was 12 years old, I was in a school that were interested in doing these kind of things, hikes, Mount Kenya, all that stuff. And my mom told me that the school is organizing a Mount Kenya trip, which I thought, okay, that's interesting. Because I'm from Meru. My dad is from Meru. Whenever I would drive to Meru as a kid, I would see this mountain and I'd see snow. And it was very fascinating. So when I learned that I can go to this mountain,
Mount Kenya.
then I was like, okay. That time I was interested in different things. I had no interest in mountains. But so I went for some of the school hikes. They were okay. I went to the mountain. It was okay, except the final ascent from Shiptons to Lenana. I didn't have enough, the right equipment. It was very cold. The mountain, I feel in those days it was colder than it is now. But also I wasn't used to that kind of environment.
How old were you, like, the first time?
I was 12 years old.
12, wow.
And I just randomly just went and did it spontaneously.
Solo?
No, with the school.
Okay.
But I was very cold. I didn't have the right kind of dressing. But I pushed, I got to Lenana, I got back. But what was consistently fascinating this whole time for me was that we weren't going to the highest point. We were going to Lenana, and this highest point that I was looking at was very inaccessible and very big and very scary. And something about that was very interesting. At that time, I didn't see myself climbing it, at least not in the near future.
Now Batian itself.
Batian and Nelion and basically all those other peaks that are just towering there.
Yeah.
They were far more exciting than Lenana.
Yeah. Looking
at them. Of course, I'd done Lenana and I was very cold and it had given me a very hard time. But I was just wondering, honestly, who climbs these other peaks? And that would just stay within my consciousness for the next year. I would go back again, I do Lenana, but I wouldn't feel like I've not summited Mount Kenya.
It's not the highest point.
I've just been to Lenana here. So what I think it was when I turned 13 or when I turned 14, I decided I need to go to Hell's Gate and try this rock climbing thing, which I did. And it was it made me think this Batian thing is even more scary than what I initially thought. Because of how I felt when I'm 20 meters off the ground, how will I feel when I'm 600 meters off the ground? But I just did it. I did one route, and I did another route, and I did them. There was nothing else to say, and I felt okay. Maybe I should try this again at some point in time. So on weekends, I think I went 3 or 4 times. There was some random weekends I went until it clicked that going to Batian is very similar to this Hell's Gate thing. It's just on a scale. It's
High
on a bigger scale,
altitude.
but the rope systems and the movement, it's the same thing. It's the same knowledge. And that's what,
So like when you're learning all the ropes, you had like a guide.
so there's two guys, well, there was these two guys at Fisher's Tower at that time when I started. There was Minor and there was Simon. Both were very experienced. They're normally the guys those days who used to be lay people. Minor is still there on and off, but mostly his brother Stephen is the one permanently there. So it was Minor and Simon. Simon, he passed away, I think, in 2018 or 2017. Unrelated things from climbing. But those two were the original guys that were there, very experienced. So they're the ones who showed me around there. Minor had climbed Batian at some point also in his career. And so he would tell me about it, and I was like, okay. So those two taught me the basics of how to use a rope, how to climb. When you start in a place like Hell's Gate, you learn directly trad. I didn't go through sport, through indoor, through any of those things. It was trad climbing straight away.
What is trad climbing?
Yes, there we go, the definitions they've begun. So trad is it's short form for traditional climbing. So if you have a wall and you want to get up this wall with your rope, to put it basically, and there's cracks in this wall, you can use these things which you put in the cracks and they jam. Some things you have a trigger which you pull and it becomes smaller, you put it in the crack, then it opens up and it fits. Other things you put in a constriction, those are the nuts. And I mean, yeah, people can also Google it, but it's essentially climbing the wall as it is. There's no permanent alterations to the wall. You're not drilling anything into the wall. You're just climbing. That's trad. You're climbing and placing these protections. Sport climbing, which is how most people start climbing outside, is where you have a wall with bolts in it. So that means someone has gone before you and drilled some bolts every few meters. So the lead climber will clip themselves into these bolts on their way up.
Okay.
And typically, good ethics dictate that you can only bolt a route where you can't put natural protection. So if there's a nice big crack where you can fit a lot of good gear, it's bad ethics to bolt next to that crack.
Ethics according to who?
Just according to climbers in general.
Okay.
And it just stems from the point of leaving nature as close to what you found it, rather than altering it too much.
Okay.
So if I find a cliff which is climbable and it's a beautiful cliff and it's a nice route, but there's no cracks, there's no protection, that's a reason for me to think, okay, every few meters within reason, I can put a bolt. Like every 3 meters or something, I'll put one bolt for safety if I want to climb it. But if I find all these natural features like cracks and little trees where I can put my gear, that's not a wall which I'd want to bolt. It's better if I can climb it with these other gears which I put. And whoever follows, they remove. Because when you lead first, you belay them from the top.
Interesting.
Anyway,
So
it's a
when
lot
you
of
are
technicalities.
prepping for your first Batian, so you're prepping by doing trad climbing, traditional
I just
climbing.
went to Hell's Gate and
Okay.
I just learned how to climb, how to place and remove gear. The thing is, I had very few needs as a kid. So it was an easy thing for my parents for my dad to just leave me in Hell's Gate for a day.
Yeah, that's what I was even wondering, like, what age was it, like, before Batian?
So I was 14 now
14.
when I started.
So you're telling your parents, I'm going
I was
to...
good at sports. I was good in school. I wasn't getting these PlayStation 3s and 4s and doing all these things or really asking for much. I just, on every odd weekend, just leave me in Hell's Gate. You don't even have to be there.
And upande.
So my dad would just leave me there. The thing is, he didn't fully know even what I was getting into. Otherwise, I don't think angekubali. But, so I did just a few weekends in Hell's Gate before I was ready for this Batian thing. And so think my first proper attempt was in August 2014 on the North Face. I was 15 at this time. So some time had elapsed in between. And by that time, I even had already learned how to do lead climbing. And I was lucky because there's a friend of my mom, some Norwegian guy, he used to climb back in the day. Very good climber. And he wasn't climbing anymore. And he had all this old school gear just sitting around, which he left me. So that allowed me sometimes to take my neighbors to some trees or to some rocks, and I lead with these gears, and then I learned those few things. But anyway, in 2014, when I went to the mountain, I went with one of the guides there. His name is Elijah Kimane. Very good guide. He's very, very strong. Those days he was very, very quick. And so we tried the North Face, but we got too far in Tower. And then there was an electrical storm. And so that one stopped that ship.
Electrical storm, like in a cloud, and then there's like lightning
and it's touching you, and you're feeling it in your skin. And on the gear, just...
And it's during the day?
Yeah, the cloud just came. Then it started snowing. When it started snowing, we already went back. That time we'd gotten to the top of Armin's Tower, so we were past halfway. But I just accepted. I was like, okay. So when we were abseiling down now is when the lightning started. And those days, I had no idea this was an extra hazard. Me, I knew all these hazards which didn't bother me, but then suddenly here is this thing which I have no control over. And it even, at some point, I don't know if it's a current that passed through my shoulder, but it permanently affected me. Sometimes randomly, I just get muscle twitches here in my neck, in the same place.
So not like as a 15-year-old, you're going through all this.
Yeah, we're like abseiling, and this thunder is it's just like the cloud is just exploding around you. And you're hearing all these crazy noises, and you're feeling all these funny sensations on your skin. Yeah, it was very extreme. And then it was really, really snowing. So that was the first attempt. But then I went back in 2014.
So like after the first attempt, you knew you'd go back later? Or...
No, when I was abseiling down during this storm, I was thinking about it. I was like, well, I don't know about this. But when I got to the base, and when I start remembering what I've survived, what I've been through, and how cool that is to have actually seen physics in a way I've never seen it. You know, it's like you're not on this planet. The kind of things you're experiencing inside that cloud. But I just decided I started this journey, so I need to finish it. So in December of that year, I went back and I completed it. On the other route. The
southeast.
Yeah, it's the normal route. A lot of people, they say south and north, which is wrong.
Okay.
There's a route called South Face route, but that's a different route. That's a suicidal route.
South Face route?
South Face route, yeah. Okay. It's killed a bunch of people. Back in the day when people used to climb it. Nowadays, no one has touched it for the last 30 years. Yeah.
So what are the main routes?
So the two routes, there's 31 routes on Batian and Nelion.
Wow. Okay.
The two routes that most people use are the two easiest, the standard route. So that's the normal route on the southeast. It's called the normal route. And if you want to use faces or whatever you say, southeast face. And so, you go from Austria and you go up the southeast face, up onto a ridge. Then you get to the top of Nelion, cross the Gate of Mist to Batian. And in June to October, you have the north face standard route, which is the easiest route on the north side. These other routes are for hardened like climbers. Some of them, even me, I can't touch them. Some I can touch them. Some of them, I need to better myself, better the experience. I could do those routes with a partner who's as good as me or better. Now, that's what I would say. And then there are some routes which I don't think anyone can attempt. It's suicidal.
No, the south one you mentioned.
Like the south face route right now, there's also the west face route.
Okay.
That's a very, very dangerous route. I attempted a route called the Ice Window in 2015 when I was 16 years old on Nelion. It's next to the south face route. And these ice climbing routes, they're now just out of condition because of climate change. And now I know why it's suicidal. Because you're there in these little gullies, and anything that avalanches from the top of Nelion or Batian funnels into these gullies. So you're there, and then big rocks, big avalanches of rock and bits of ice and things just come down these chutes. And it's very, very scary. It's like rolling dice when you're there.
Yeah. So at 15 is when you first summited Batian.
Yeah.
And then how old are you now?
No, I'm 23.
Make me feel so old.
Ah.
So 15, you summited Batian. Then how did you become now a guide?
Yeah, that's... So what I did was I would go back to the mountain on and off. From after I summited Batian at the age of 15, this was in December 2014, I never went back with a guide. I would just join forces with a cook or a potter who wants to go on an adventure. And we'd go and we'd pick these satellite peaks, Point Darton, Point Peter, these glaciers, with this old school gear that I'd been given by this mzee. And we would try to do these climbs and get as high as we could and then retreat. And I'd be leading. I'd teach these guys how to belay, how to abseil, how to do this stuff, and we'd actually
15-year-old teaching them this.
Yeah, well, the cooks and the potters like 20, 30-year-old guys, but I mean, fully grown men. And we...
But here's you.
Here I am. I mean, we saw some crazy things and attempted some things which at the time, I thought I'm practicing, but you end up getting into very funny situations. I accidentally got on a route that had never been climbed on the northwest face of Point Darton with one of these cooks. We turned around after 4 pitches and I went back as a 16-year-old and I completed that route with my cousin the next year. Wow. We named it Adventure Compensation. But anyway, in 2015, I got on this route thinking it's an established route, but no one had ever climbed it.
Oh, really?
On Point Darton, yeah. And we got... I think we climbed 100 meters of it or something like that before I just got intimidated by the exposure. Just hanging up there and then taking in the rope and this guy coming up and this guy has a family and his life is in my hands and clouds are coming in and just very hectic, things like that. So that one we just bailed. I just hammered in some pitons and abseiled. So after about 2 years of those kind of trips in the school holidays, very low budget, self-supported trips with these mountain guys, carrying bags and doing our thing, after I'd accumulated that experience and just been through, seen the mountain in its worst, in a leadership position is when I ethically decided, okay, now I can actually, because also I needed, it's expensive.
Yeah.
And I was still in high school, and yeah, I needed a way to fund.
Yeah, speaking of high school,
climbing.
like, how do you get the time? You're climbing.
So this was in the holidays.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Even the weekends, it was few and far between. Because otherwise, I was just in school or going for rugby matches, just doing what regular high school people do. It's just now in the holidays, instead of just sitting around, I would just go down on the way to Meru. I'm just left in Mount Kenya for 10 days.
So, like, as a 16-year-old, how do you get that confidence, Yani, just to do any peaks that you just want to do?
I was just...
Because it's not like normal. Yeah.
It's not everyone's cup of tea, but I was just very drawn to those peaks and those glaciers and those extreme environments. When you look at them, it looks like a place that no one is supposed to touch, that a human is not supposed to step there. Only the eagles fly that high. Otherwise, it's just rock and ice, and I just wanted to be there. I wanted to find a way to go there. And so that's what I did. And when you do that when you're that young, it just fills you with a sense of pride. Wow. No, I wasn't a cool kid by any stretch of the imagination, but when I was there, leading all these grown men up on those peaks of Batian, and there's storms and there's lightning, and you're taking charge and you're just handling the situation, it gives you, it's almost a godlike type of feeling. You just feel very, very like badass doing those things. So it was addictive.
Wow. So for your first, your first Batian expedition at 16, how was that for you?
So this was August 2015. The plan initially was just to do this peak called Point Pigot, fourth highest peak on the mountain. It's also pretty big. But when I got there, me and this good friend of mine, Patrick, who was a cook and a Lenana guide at that time with a little bit of experience, we now looked at this south face of Nelion and that route next to it called the ice window. And we thought, see, we can do it. We had ice climbing equipment and it looked like it was in good condition. The whole gully was full of ice. So we decided we forget about Point Pigot and we attempt this route on Nelion. So we said we'll go the following morning just to do 3-4 pitches of the route. A pitch is a rope length, for those who don't know what that is. So we decided we're going to go up, do maybe 100 meters of the route, go down, and then the following day do the whole thing. So we went to the route and we saw a very long day. Now that we got big rocks falling on us, we got a lot of ice. It was very scary. The ice conditions were bad. I was leading these ice pitches and the ice axe was going through the ice straight to the rock underneath. It was just melting. It was actually hot. And so the surfaces we were standing on were collapsing. All this snow, I couldn't build any anchors. So that was just too committing. So we failed. We got 150 meters up, we retreated. The following day, we went to Point John. The day after that, we thought, okay, let's attempt the south ridge of Nelion. So not even the normal route. We go from Point John and we link this entire ridge because when I looked at the guidebook, there was no route on the south ridge. So I said, let's do that. And so we tried it. We also failed. We got to some place where it was very steep, very exposed. And we saw some slings where some people had tried back in the day, and they'd also retreated. Same spot, so we retreated, we failed again.
So just wing it. Let's see how.
Yeah, and I mean, just going into the unknown, feeling, okay, we might make it, we might succeed, we might have to bail. And so we tried now 2 non-standard routes, and we'd failed. So I thought, you know what, let's just do this North Face standard route, which I'd only ever done half in the past. And we went now, me, this guy, and another guy called Homegrown. Another very excited mzee. And we succeeded on the North Face. We spent a night on top of Amin's Tower. Now we got to the summit the following day, and then we got lost on the way down. And I was spending 36 hours on the peak.
Okay.
But I learned a lot of lessons that trip. So it was only
like what
after
lessons?
that. I mean, I learned the route. I learned what's efficient and not efficient. If I'm climbing and belaying 2 people, one at a time is not efficient. They have to move together.
They go down together.
I learned how to build anchors. I learned the anchors not to trust.
Okay.
Things like that, because we abseiled off of some funny things when we had no options, and I learned some of these things that you think can't hold can actually hold, but it's a last resort when you're totally lost.
Yeah. So like Mount Kenya, how many peaks have you done? How many peaks are there even?
There's more than 22 peaks on Mount Kenya.
Okay.
Yeah. And how many? Maybe 9 or 10 of them. And they all have different routes on them, yeah.
Okay. So Lenana is just like the most accessible route. You just hike up.
Yeah.
And then of course the highest, Batian, Nelion. So those are 3 already. Then another
but
7 that you've done.
So many peaks. Yeah. So Point Thompson, Point Dutton, Point Peter, Point John, Batian, Nelion, Lenana, Shipton's Peak. And there's one called Kraf Rognon. This big pillar of rock next to the north face of Batian. Sendeo Terere.
Yeah, I've seen Sendeo.
I haven't been to Sendeo though, but I've been on a ridge on Terere somewhere. I've attempted Point Pigot, but yeah, that didn't work out. Yeah, I mean,
what would you say is like the hardest peak of all that you've done?
On Mount Kenya, well, that's hard because they all have so many routes. I say Point John.
This is the most
Point
accessible.
John, the wall facing Teleki Valley, has the most difficult routes on Mount Kenya. Every route that has ever been done on that wall takes 3 days, and none of those routes have been freed. Being free means that the route is climbed with a rope, but just using the features of the rock to climb. The people who climbed it, they had to put gear and then pull themselves again on that gear. That's how hard it is. It's so hard that you literally have to put this gear in a crack, clip some sort of a sling ladder to it, and then pull yourself up. And that takes 3 days. So 2 nights sleeping on the wall. And then the northern and eastern faces of Nelion and Batian have the hardest routes. But that one of Point John, I think, is the most technical. Yeah.
Speaking of Point John, I'll just start with that. Like, you have this very famous documentary called Cold Feet, where you climb Point John without a rope and barefoot. First of all, like, why barefoot? And also, like, why without a rope?
So, okay, for this thing in particular, my thinking was either one of those things in isolation, a lot of people can do it. Okay, the barefoot, not so many, but if you have hard feet, I figured it can be done. You know, you can have a rope and you can chill out and you'll be fine. And then doing it without a rope, but with shoes, there's a lot of very skilled climbers in the world who can do it easily. It's not a hard climb at all. But then I thought if you're barefoot and at the same time you're free soloing this thing, that's where you can eliminate even some of the top climbers in the world.
And first of all, like, Point John is 4,800 meters.
4,883.
And 83.
Yeah.
It's cold there. Would you say it's like a risky climb to do without a rope?
Any free solo
Is risky.
that's above a certain grade is probably the most extreme sport that you can do, other than free soloing and what you call close proximity. You know, the wingsuiting, where they're flying
when
past
they jump off
buildings and those things. Those are the two most dangerous sports on the planet. But the problem with free soloing, especially big walls, is that you're there for a long, long time, which means that there's more time for you to make just a small mistake and then die.
So, like, how'd you get this idea to do that?
I just wanted to do something. I just wanted to top my last thing and something unique. Yeah. And I remember thinking, okay, barefoot. You know, since I was a kid in the Rift Valley, just running around barefoot, I already had a foundation, hard feet.
Yeah.
And when I thought about it, I was like, that's something I can do. I can handle low temperatures quite well. And I know that it'll take past a certain threshold to get frostbite, where it would just be uncomfortable. It wouldn't be dangerous, my feet wouldn't get damaged, but it would be uncomfortable. And the thing is, whoever I shared the idea with, people are like, that's impossible. Then I was like, this is exactly what I need to do. Because I know it's possible and everyone else thinks it's impossible. That's why I have to do it. And it's just unique because what I was doing by climbing this thing with no rope and no shoes is eliminating so many aids. You know, I mean, besides clothes don't really influence your movement on the rock. It's shoes, your hands and your feet. That's what's touching the rock and moving. So I figured from a biomechanical point of view, that is the most primal way that I can climb this piece of rock.
Pure way to climb.
No shoes. And then at the same time, I'm free soloing, just like a wild animal who's the way a fish can swim and a bird can fly. It's like, now, truly, this is what I'm meant to do.
And you're doing all that while it's being documented.
So that's now a whole other story. But when this idea came to mind, I was in Norway and I was unemployed for a long time. I was in a very bad shape. And Norway is an expensive country. And every month that goes by without an income, the rent and everything is just killing your finances. So at some point I decided I'll take the risk of going to Kenya, going back to Kenya, buying the ticket and making a documentary with this good friend of mine called Ash. I figured that can be one thing to now boost my career from where it was at. Because in Norway I wasn't doing anything. I was doing miserable jobs or no job. And
to Norway because you're half Kenyan, half
my mother
Norwegian.
is Norwegian, so I had to spend some time there after high school for a number of reasons. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, how did you prepare, to do the whole...
So when I decided that I'm going
Point
back,
John,
it was in the winter this time. So I would just walk around barefoot in the snow, things like that. I know that year that I'd spent in Norway doing this, I did this outdoor education program from 2018 to 2019 in Norway. In the winter, I went skiing. That's why I learned how to deal with extreme cold, and I learned that I can deal with extreme cold. Because I normally would walk from my dorm to the dining room barefoot or with slippers, and the Norwegians would look at me like I'm crazy. No, it's funny because people think it's the Norwegian side of me that's handling the cold, but the Norwegians were looking at me like, what is this crazy African doing? Honestly, I would go skiing in shorts, in t-shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I realized you can feel cold and you can feel very cold, but it doesn't mean that you're about to die or get
And you
injured.
mentioned that there's like that, like, comfortable frostbite or something.
It's not really
Before-
comfortable frostbite, but it's like you're cold and you're very uncomfortable, but you're not in danger of getting hurt yet. So I learned that line, I found where that line is.
Interesting.
Where if I cross this line, okay, I have frostbite. But before I hit this line, I know I have so much. So when I was actually doing the free soloing on Point John, I was the whole time very comfortable. I knew I was a long, long, long way from that line, even when it started snowing. Because on the way down, it was snowing. And the temperature was quite low, but I knew I was good. At least me and everything I'd done in Norway, all the winter experience I'd gotten and the way I'd been testing myself. Sometimes I would just sit outside in negative 20 degrees, and I just set a timer and I sit for a very long time. Yeah.
And
I
what are you wearing
realized-
at that time?
Like an underwear, a boxer.
So that's your training.
And I just realized this thing, I can do it.
Wow.
I go to a point where I can almost consciously push the circulation into my feet. Yeah. I just got so much awareness of what I'm able to do biomechanically.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Like in the documentary, there was this scene, like before you did the climb for Point John, you went to visit your grandma.
Yes.
Was it like to get her blessings before the climb?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, in Meru, the mountain is sacred. It's very special. But also, I thought it would be very good to see my grandma, but those blessings, you can make them mean something. And I just think it just felt better attempting
Did you
the
do it
mountain
like
after
because
that.
you knew like it was dangerous, maybe in case something happened, or, or is this something you don't think about?
I mean, I'd done solos and dangerous things before that,
Yeah.
and I hadn't gone to Meru, but this time I just felt it would be. It was the most extreme thing I'd ever attempted at that point. At least to my knowledge. When I had actually done it, I realized it wasn't so bad. But before doing it in my head, it was very unknown, because that's not something that I had any base. No one before me had done anything like that.
Yeah.
I'm researching other mountains in the world, sending emails to people who keep climbing history and archives, and they told me there's barefoot climbers, but people who boulder or people who climb in hot places like
Not
Yosemite.
high altitude.
Not high altitude, and also not technical free soloing. Some people, like there's this Dutch guy called Wim Hof, the Iceman, who goes skiing or walking in the mountains barefoot, but not free solo rock climbing on an alpine peak.
Yeah.
There was nothing anywhere that I could find
So you're like
anything
the
like
only
that.
one.
So I just had to go into the unknown and then see what it's like.
Wow. So like with all that you've done, like with Point John, there are many hikers out there that feel Point John should be named after you.
Ah, right. That's one thing.
Yeah. Unaona jina gani?
No, I mean, for me, it's the thing of having more African names on our peaks is also good. I think for something like Point John, it wouldn't be a bad idea to change it simply because that was just some random missionary that walked through the country. Something like Shipton's Peak, I wouldn't want it changed because Eric Shipton had a big influence on the mountain and on the climbing there.
Yeah.
If people want to name it after me, that's fine. Obviously, I can't champion a movement like that.
But
'cause it's
what
being
would you
named
like
after
the
me.
name to be?
What would I like it to be?
Yeah.
I can't say that
No,
I
yeah.
want it to be my name. Because it's
Okay.
it's just one of those things.
Between Point Muambi and Point Naituli.
Oh no, me I choose Point Muambi is better.
Point Muambi.
Yeah, that's my name.
Point John is now Point Muambi.
Yeah, no, Kinoti is the one I think who came up with this idea.
Yeah.
But I said if you want to name it after me, choose Muambi.
Muambi.
Yeah.
Because now
Naituli is my dad.
I see. Because now I was checking out your Insta page. You have like 5 names.
I've got
Peter,
even more names, but I haven't put all of them there.
Peter, Muambi,
Loinua.
Loinua,
That one is the most recent one, and then Mtolatia.
Mtulatia.
Yeah, that's like the proper Meru name. Yeah.
Naituli.
Then Naituli is the surname.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where did you get the middle one, the most recent one?
Loinua.
Loinua, yeah.
Because of all the time I've spent in Samburu. Those Samburu guys, they gave me some names there, but I picked that one. Yeah.
Speaking of Samburu, so like Ololokwe, it's a mountain that you like to go and climb.
Yeah.
So like, is it for rock climbing? Because every time I've been going to Ololokwe, it's just hiking up.
So it's more an area that I've been spending a lot of time, because now I work as a mountain guide. Actually, there's a tangent which we split from, which I think we left people hanging. Why I got into guiding, just very quickly.
Yeah.
So it was to fund my climbing.
Right.
Because ropes finish, I had to replace them.
Right.
And because I liked climbing and it was expensive, that's why I started going to the mountain, carrying bags, guiding people, doing all those things. So anyway, that's led to me becoming a guide and an instructor. And Ololokwe it's a place that I went to for the first time last year. It's one of the most beautiful mountains in Kenya. It's probably the most photographed mountain in the whole country. That roadside photo.
Yeah.
And it's one of Africa's most impressive big walls.
Yeah.
And as a climber, you don't look at Ololokwe and think about the hike. You look at the walls and think, now, those are some very, very impressive walls. And the thing with Ololokwe, you don't just have that wall. You go behind it in that valley and you've got cliffs and cliffs and cliffs and you've got cat and mouse. And most of the rock in the valley behind Ololokwe has never been climbed. So other than the documentary that I've been shooting, which we'll come to later, and the main project that I was working on in Ololokwe this year, me and Leki Luai, we've been putting up new routes in that valley. We've been climbing cliffs that have never been climbed, climbing them, naming these routes, grading them, writing route descriptions. One day we hope to create a guidebook for that, the rock climbing in that area. It has a lot of potential. So I've been working with the camp in that place. I've also been taking clients to Ololokwe, training them, because the good thing with Ololokwe, there's beginner climbing and there's hard climbing. There's climbing for the world's best athletes and there's climbing for someone who's never touched a rock in their entire lives. There's big walls and there's little walls. So it really has potential. So I've been taking clients there. I have a small partnership with the camp. I've been training some of the locals. We're trying to get a good climbing team there. And then again, we've been shooting the next documentary now.
So would you say like you said there's the beginner and world's best athletes, climbers. Would you say you're one of them?
No, that's a very difficult one, because climbing is one thing that has so many disciplines. I'd say I'm very far from the top. However, when it comes to free soloing, that's one thing that you can have the world's best climber who's climbing the hardest grades, but they wouldn't try to free solo some of the things that I've soloed.
So like the most famous free soloer is Alex Honnold. So is that someone you learn from?
Not really. The thing is, I don't have a lot in common with people like Alex Honnold.
Okay.
In terms of my upbringing or my way into the sport.
Okay.
It's very different when you're in the West and you have access to so many climbers and so many, just immediate access to so much climbing. You know, here, it reaches a point you culturally have to go against. Everyone just wants you to get a degree.
Yeah.
And nothing else. And there just reaches a point where you just have to really do the legwork on your own if you really care about this thing.
Then they'll be like,
'Cause
why are you doing it?
there's only either they won't support you or they'll support you to a level if they matter. But from that level, you're on your own, you do your thing. So I definitely admire Alex Honnold, but there's not a lot of parallels between how I've gotten into it, and my focus is largely on getting myself as far as I can as an athlete, but also now creating the opportunity for other young passionate people who was once me, if they want to get into it as now a Kenyan.
Yeah.
For these Kenyans that they have someone to train them to look up to really push them sort of in a very passionate way.
That's what's up. Then I also notice, like, for climbers, when you do like a route, you get to name it.
Yeah.
So
It's a
like
lot of fun.
so like, and you've done many routes like in Ololokwe. So like, how do you decide how to like name a route?
It's just based on the character of the route normally. Sometimes, I mean, when you do enough routes, sometimes also, especially a lot of routes that are not that exciting or that's for the sake of putting up a new route, not a lot of thought goes into it. But when you put up a route that you've really worked on or a really nice line on a very prominent wall, then you really try to come up with a good name. There's one, the hardest route. I actually injured my finger there now when I was there in June. I blew these pulleys. You have pulleys in your fingers.
Pulleys.
So I blew one putting up this very hard trad route in that Ololokwe Valley. We named it the Blood Bucket because after I went up, the other guys, there was 4 of us, me and Ian and some other Samburu guys. Everyone like was cut and bled into this route. It's like a very wide crack with very loose and very sharp rock and not very good protection for the leader. So I did it first with aid. So putting in those nuts, and some places I was able to do it free. Some places I had to really aid. I had to hang on the rope and do all these crazy things. But I came back the following day and I was able to do bottom to top without aid. But that's when I just felt a pa in my finger. So I was pulling really hard on this tiny thing. So we named it the Blood Bucket, that route.
The Blood Bucket. And then like, for you to complete a route, that means you climb from the bottom to the top just in one go.
So there's a lot of ethics in climbing. So if it's a wall where there's no cracks, what we normally do, especially these little walls, we just hike to the top, make an anchor, abseil down, then we calculate where's the best place to put the bolts.
Okay.
So then we drill the bolts, then each of us will take a turn leading it, and it only counts proper if I've done it from the bottom to the top leading without pulling on any of the gear, just clipping the rope and just using the features of the rock, bottom to top. I haven't fallen. I haven't sat down and rested on the rope. I've done it clean.
Okay.
That counts. It's like that route is now done. I can grade it accordingly. With the case of the Blood Bucket, which is trad, it's the same thing, bottom to top, placing gear. So the first time that we went up, I had to aid, and everyone else followed also aid. So it counts that the route is done, but it's given an aid grade, not a free grade. You grade it like people don't understand climbing grades, but that was like a...
So like, what's the lowest grade and what's like the highest, the most difficult grade?
There's so many grading systems, but if we're talking about the British trad system, it goes from easy, hard, or easy, difficult, very difficult, moderate, severe, hard, very severe, and then you have extreme, which is E. And then it goes E1, E2, E3, and it goes on until, like, I think the hardest has been done is an E12 or an E11. Yeah.
So for the Blood Bucket, what was the grading?
And that's an E4.
Extreme.
Yeah, E4. So that means the protection is, and it's also, the grading is also based on the protection. So the protection is, it's okay. It's pretty good. Some places it's not, and then it's also hard at the same time. So it's an E4.
And the last you said it was what E what?
Like E12, E11 is the hardest trad. But then if you're talking, that's the thing, for trad routes, you grade it differently from sport routes, for example, because trad, there's a bigger element of risk when you're placing gear. Sport climbing, you know, there's a bolt.
Trad is just the cracks.
Yeah, you're placing your own
Sport,
gear.
bolts.
Sport climbing, you know that there's bolts.
Yeah.
So you just grade technical difficulty. So for sport, we use the French system, and that goes from like 3A, 3B, 3C, 3C. Then you have 4A, 4B, 4C, and it goes up until the hardest has been done is 9C.
9C.
Yeah, there's also pluses or minuses to indicate you can have a 6A plus is harder than a 6A minus.
Like school grading, A plus, A minus,
Yeah.
those things. Okay. Like
Maybe there's no minus, it's just plus to indicate a very hard. Like 6B plus is harder than 6B.
so like when you name a route, how do people know that you've named or that route has been done?
Because we write guidebooks, or nowadays in the modern world, there's a website called thecrag.com where we take pictures of the wall and we draw the route, give it a name, give it a grade. And because the climbing community is quite integrated, if I go to another country, into a new area to climb, I'll do my research. So I'll know. It's quite easy because most countries have mountain clubs to know that something's been done or not done. So if I'm going to a completely new area, it's quite quick before I learn no one has climbed any of these cliffs. Or quickly to learn that, okay, there's routes here. Is there a guidebook? Yes, there's a guidebook. I buy the guidebook and I can see all the different routes, their names, the first people who did them, which year did they do them, and the description of the routes.
And how would you tell, let's say, if someone legit did it?
It's in the guidebook.
No, like if I say, oh, I climbed this wall and I'm the first person to ascend it, then I give it a name.
Typically, because climbing, like I said, it's a very integrated community, especially in a place like Kenya. We know if someone goes and does something, okay, nowadays, you know, there's videos and photos, but say there's none of that.
Yeah.
Because there's routes where you just do it. Let's say me and you, we climb something. People will generally know this is true or not based on what we've done in the past.
Okay.
It's very hard for people to go and lie, because it's very easy to get called out on the bluff. We know that you didn't do this because we know you can't climb this to begin with. And also, genuinely, climbers are quite honest with what they do, because otherwise it just ruins. There is some people here and there who emerge, who make things up, but typically they're called out very quickly. People are usually not able to just do something like that.
Okay, so we talked about you being the first human to climb a technical peak without shoes
On Mount Kenya.
on Mount Kenya. So now let's say now we're moving on to now Ololokwe. You're the first human to free solo the main face of Ololokwe.
Yes.
And this is like this year, right?
Yeah, it was in April.
So like, was this something that you're thinking about like for a long time, or?
The funny thing is, in July last year, when I first saw Ololokwe, and I say this even in the documentary, which hasn't come out yet, I looked at it and I said, whoever free solos that is the scariest thing you can free solo. Because I was even thinking some of these walls in Yosemite Valley, even the really hard ones, the rock, number one, is good. Because people climb it off. The rock is good, but also people climb it often. So if something is loose, people have pulled it off, whatever. This main wall of Ololokwe is, up until recently, it was very remote until the road was put there.
Yeah.
Even nowadays, not a lot of people have even attempted that wall. There's a number of routes on it, but most of these routes have never been repeated. They were just done once by the first ascensionists, and then maybe some have been repeated once, twice. Yeah, so looking at this wall and knowing how few people have climbed it, because it's very serious. It's more serious than doing the standard routes on Nelion and Batian by a good stretch. And so I looked at it, looked at the loose rock, all the vulture dung, the birds just hovering there, and how steep it was. And I just thought this would be a terrifying free solo. And so already in my head, I was never going to do it. It didn't even occur to me that it's something that I was going to do. I didn't even know if anyone would ever do that. But now, when was it? I think in December or something like that. I was thinking about going back and looking at a new route that some guys had put up. There's 3 guys from Mountain Club of Kenya that went and they put up a route, a trad route, but with some bolts here and there. The thing with the rock on Ololokwe and in that area is that it's very hard to get cracks. So you get a few trad routes, but a lot of trad routes need one bolt here, one bolt there, because you just get big stretches with no protection. So these guys went and they put a few bolts in the wall and they put up a new route. And they named it Guinness and Goat, something
Guinness
like that.
and Goat.
Yeah, it's like 300 meters high. And I wanted to just check out this route. And I read the description and I was like, okay, it doesn't sound so bad, except the fact that it's very run out, which means the protection is far apart and the loose rock. And something just spoke huko nyuma. I was like, what if I can free solo this thing? But then I didn't want to think about it so much. So with the first time I climbed this route,
Guinness and Goat.
which was the first time that I'd even ever climbed the Ololokwe main face, that was in March this year. I had finished a small rescue on Mount Kenya. I'd gone up to Batian, I'd come down with Ian and with some 2 ladies. And then I had another guest I was supposed to take up to Nelion, but he got sick at Austrian Hut and we had to bring him down. It's like a 12-hour rescue through the night. And anyway, the young man was okay. But after that, this Gabriel, who's the director of the filmmaker, he called me and he says, we're at Ololokwe, you want to come? Hey, and I was a bit tired. But then I thought, okay, whatever, why not? So I got on a matatu and I went down to to Archer's Post. These guys picked me from there. And 2 days after that, me and Ian, we attempted this Guinness and Goat route. And just getting to the base, very bushy, very vegetated. No paths, just following game trails, thorns, wait a bit, whatever. But we climbed it. And as I was climbing it, I was thinking, for the most part, I can solo it. But there were some places I was like, this would be very scary. Even doing it with the rope, I ended up leading every single pitch. Lecky did not like how run out it was. You got 20 meters between the bolts.
Run
That
out
means
it's far.
no protection.
Okay.
So for the leader, you clip one protection and you go
Right.
like 20 meters is nothing. That means if you fall, you're looking at 40 to 50 meters, you'll fall. Because you calculate the distance above the bolt, the distance below, then you also calculate slack, the fact that the rope stretches. So you'll really, really hurt yourself. So that was very scary. And then also the rock was very loose. The fact that it was run out helped me figure out how it would feel if I was soloing, because it's almost like soloing. Because even if you have the rope, the falls you're looking at are big, big, big falls. So I figured I can probably solo this, but I'll need to work on a few sections of the route, because there was some very difficult, not very difficult, but there were some very sketchy sections where it's very blank and very loose. The rock is just not good. It's just peeling like onion.
So like you can be grabbing a rock, then
And
just
it just
peels.
breaks, yeah. And we broke a few rocks when we were there climbing it. And when I went back, I climbed the wall again in April with a client now. And during that ascent, we broke a huge rock. I think I even put it on my story. That
The
one,
same route.
the same route.
Yeah.
So I'd gotten the client up to a ledge, and Lecky was now following behind. And he grabbed this rock like a flake. Big thing, like this thing over here.
Yeah.
And it just chomokat like
moved.
this, it moved.
Oh, man.
So now he put his knee and to keep it there. So what I had to do, because I was now above him, belaying him, I kept the rope very tight. The client took the phone just to record. This was the 4th time ever that route was being climbed. That's another thing. That client was the first client in history to have been taken up that wall. I'm trying now to pioneer the guiding on this mountain with Ian. So now this rock came out. I had to really tighten the rope so he could step aside. I even tried to put my leg on the top of the rock just to give it some more friction. So then he moved a little bit, then we just let it go. And this thing went, papa. Even these kudus,
Damn.
these gazelles are just scattering, running in the forest below us. This rock just goes crashing.
Wow. And so you took your client to Ololokwe.
Yeah.
You removed that the rock which slid off.
Big piece of rock. Yeah. So that one came off. The good thing is that's one less hazard for whoever else wants to come up. Like I said, we were the fourth party in history to do the route. It was done by those 3 guys first. Then it was done by another 2 guys also from MCK. Me and Lecky became the 3rd people to do the route. And then me and Lecky again, we came back now bringing this client. So we finished that. We ate a goat on the...
Summit.
No, actually, we didn't eat. That was a different trip. Naituli too. But
so during all this time, like with the client, you're just still calculating like all the moves that you'll do if were you to do a solo.
So as I go ahead, I'm thinking about all these things. I think forgetting this rock that came out, the scariest thing that happened on this climb with the client was it was on this same pitch where the rock came out. When I was leading the way, I got lost. I just went slightly off to the side once I'd clipped the bolt, and I just found myself on a part of the wall where the bolt was very far, and I was surrounded by these ledges of grass. And these things, the problem is you step there, like they're more slippery than snow. And they cover the best holds. So you can hold one and it's good, or you step on one and it's good, another one collapses. And the first time I'd climbed the wall with Lecky, on the approach to the base, he'd stood on one and it had collapsed, and then he had gone and he had then caught himself. So that was very scary. And at that time when I was lost, now I was looking at 50 meters falling if I took a fall.
50-meter fall.
But I kept it together and I said some prayers and I succeeded. I did the pitch, I set up the rope. And now the good thing is everyone who's following, the rope is above.
Yeah.
So they're okay. Even if they want to just sit, if they want to fall, they won't go far because I've got them.
The risk is normally to the lead.
The leader.
Okay.
The leader ndio ni kila kitu.
Wow.
So even when people are going Nelion, Batian, the guide is basically just the role of the lead climber. Going in front, putting gear, and then bringing you up from ledges.
So like Ololokwe, that was, when you went back with that client, that was the second time doing that route?
That was the second time I was on that route.
How many more times did you do for it before the solo?
So 2 days after that, I went back with Gabriel, the filmmaker, and now with Ian. We did the route. We did 1 lap. And I looked at it and I thought, okay. Okay. Then we came back again. I think I did the route a total of 5 times before I soloed it. One of the times we climbed with big bags and we slept in a cave. On the top of this wall, on this route, there's actually a cave, a deep cave.
Interesting.
Which I don't think any other people have ever slept in because it's on the wall. You actually have to down climb or abseil into it. So we slept there, and the following morning I was supposed to do the solo, but we just didn't feel like it was the right day.
Like, and what were you feeling? What do you feel like? Why is it not the right day?
I mean, there was no day, let me be honest, there was no day, even the day that I actually soloed it, where I felt like today is the right day. Because when I pictured doing those moves in my head without a rope, I was like, this is terrifying. I'd never fallen on that route, even with a rope, but I was thinking, even if I'd fallen with the rope, maybe I would have fallen 50 meters, I would have broken a leg or something, but I would be alive. But I knew without the rope, one small thing has to break and I'm dead. But on this day that I was supposed, quote unquote, supposed to solo, we were supposed to do some rehearsal again. The hardest pitch. This one where I got lost. I was supposed to practice the moves. The thing is, when we went to that ledge and I did some practice and we chilled, the director wasn't feeling very well. We all ended up falling asleep just on that ledge. And we wasted an hour, and then we asked ourselves, do we really feel like doing this today? It just wasn't the right day. And we also, because it had been a drought, we wanted to time this solo with the day that the rains arrive. So the next time we came back after that, it was supposed to be a rehearsal, but it was the hottest day I've experienced in Samburu. It was more than 40 degrees. And when we got close to the base, we realized, oh no, the rain is coming, big thunderclouds. So we looked at each other, and then the director was like, you might have to do it today.
The director meaning like you are filming
Gabriel, yeah.
this whole...
So yeah, what he would normally do even when I practice is you'd go on the wall, make an anchor with Lecky, then hang there on his rope.
And take shots of
where
you.
He doesn't need to hold anything. He just hangs there with his camera, and then he films me doing my climbing.
Okay.
But for the final climb, I didn't want anyone on the wall because it's very intense. There are some sections of the route, like the first pitch and the second pitch, which I was comfortable with, which he actually filmed and photographed me soloing 2 days before that. Because those ones I could comfortably solo them many times. But the whole wall, I needed to just be myself. I didn't want anyone hanging there and getting, you
Pressure.
Start tensing. You see this guy is coming up without a rope. It's a very intense thing to watch from close.
Then you can see the bottom down there.
Yeah, and me, I might be calm soloing, but I absorb, I reflect some of your tension, and that's not good.
So the day of the solo, first of all, like the Guinness and Goat, how long is it?
It's 300 meters.
300 meters.
Yeah, it's a 300-meter wall.
And once you start, like, there's no turning back.
Yeah, when you're soloing, that's it. It's not a kind of route that you can climb down easily. So either you make it to the top or you don't. And we were now, like he didn't want us to go because this rain was very close. Sometimes it even started drizzling. But we really felt we have to do this. We have to get this done. So Gabe got the drone out. Me, I just made myself mentally ready. I figured there's no day where I'll be fully ready to do this thing. Because thinking about it, even when you're in bed, is so scary.
Yeah.
Because those rocks are just loose and they're just coming out in those hard places. So me, I just started climbing. And this guy just flew up the drone. And I just climbed. I entered just a state. It's almost like you don't know where you are. You're just flowing. You're just doing it. I get to this part. I know this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what I'm supposed to hold. This I'm not supposed to hold. Things like that. And I went bottom, top. When I got maybe 50 meters, 60 meters from the top, that's when it started raining. And I just got excited.
Just soloing while it's raining.
And the thing is, this last bit is easy now. So for me, I was like, this one, raisi, pa. So I just started going even faster. And it was raining. I got to the cave. I got out of the cave. And I ran along the top. I took off my shoes because the last part, you have to climb some tree roots. So then I just sprinted to the very top. The whole time the drone is just here. But you block it out when you're soloing. But it was very powerful. Then I stood on the top and the rains were just pouring all over Samburu, just thunderclouds and rain. And it was, even these guys down at the bottom of the cliff, I could hear them just celebrating. Everyone was...
Oh, they could see you going up the whole time.
Yeah, on the drone, they were just watching and happy that now I finished it. I was still alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one had died. And then it sank in that now I've done something that no one has done before. Wow. And to top it off, it's like I'm a Kenyan. It's a Kenyan who did this thing.
What's up?
And not people coming from outside and just claiming all the all their sense in the country. It's like this very significant mountain to the Samburu and to these groups of people. It has now been done in that fashion, first ever free solo, and it was a Kenyan who did it. That was now something very powerful. Wow. And it was a good feeling, and a good feeling to still be in one piece.
Damn, congrats.
It went as well.
And it was filmed.
Yeah, the drone was just there, just following. Yeah.
How long did it take from the whole...
So it took me 35 minutes from the bottom of the wall to the top. And that's also stopping on some ledges, taking off my shoes and chilling. So this guy can send his drone back and change batteries and send them up again. Yeah.
So when you do the solo, did Lecky also do it?
No. So him, after I got to the top, him and Gabe, they came up now climbing with a rope. And them, both of them almost had some falls. Gabe, actually, he was leading in one place and he just messed up on the slabs and he ended up sliding and miraculously just, I don't know how, just putting the brakes and stopping before like going backwards and like falling. And then with Lecky, he was climbing, he had a top rope on one of the pitches and he stepped on something and it broke and he fell.
It's the same route that you
The
went.
same route that I soloed. And every time I'd been on the route before the solo, I'd broken a hold, but I hadn't fallen. When I did the solo, I didn't break any holds. Everything I touched, it was just... It was the
So
right
you just
things.
have to be like in a flow.
Yeah, and very aware, very sensitive. Because you enter now a state where it's... You're just here. Death is here. Life is just on this side. And you're just walking this line and you're just riding it. And it just makes you so aware the way you're not aware when you're anywhere else. It's that time you exist 1 second at a time. There's no future plans, no past. You're just there in this moment.
Next move.
Just next move, next move, next move. Yeah, and then it's done.
So like, when's the documentary, when will it be out?
We're hoping it'll be out next year, not too far into next year. And we're hoping to have a trailer within the next month or two. Yeah.
Wow. Hearing these stories of free solo, I mean, you know, whenever I watch, for example, Alex Honnold, if you watch those, like when he's climbing and everything, you know, your hands sweat.
It's very
and
intense. It's very, very intense.
So now I can't wait like to watch now yours, and then I know you're here, you're alive and everything, but still when watching it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get more nervous also watching free soloing than actually doing it.
Yeah. Wow. So would you do it again?
I probably not. I mean, maybe. It's when it's done, something as intense as this, the next big solo objectives, they are far. Yeah, that one, even though it's not technically, in terms of the moves, it's not the hardest thing that I've soloed. I've soloed shorter routes that are harder grade, but in terms of everything combined, it's still quite precise, the moves, but on top of that, it's loose and then it's a big wall. It's just very intense. It's the most intense climb that I've done. That's what makes it such a scary thing, and that's why
And it rained.
wouldn't repeat it in the near future. And it rained towards the end, just kidogo. But that was on the easy bit.
Wow.
Yeah,
Is that when you got your Samburu name?
it was. I think it's like when I went back again in June. I've been going and coming and going and coming back. I think this was that trip where we went to Ngurunit that I got that name. It means yo
Loinua.
moto imewaka.
Your moto imewaka.
Burning fire.
Wow. I'm just still thinking about the Ololokwe stuff.
Yeah, that wall.
So you said that it's coming out next year when?
That one I can't give you a date because the way Gabriel works, they just let him do his thing as ikuwe na pressure.
And it'll be like a cinema.
Yeah, we'll screen it, we'll put it in film festivals, but this will be much bigger than Cold Feet because the story around it is just very, very powerful. The Samburu and that area. My dad used to graze his cows apo too. It was called the Northern Grazing Area. We can see Ololokwe from Ushago, this hill where there's like a house there where we used to go. When we went to Ushago, you can see Ololokwe just here. I'm from a part of Meru that's very close to Samburu. So anyway, the significance of that climb and that whole area and the drought, the story of the drought, all these things just feed into a very powerful film. The music which we got, you know, we got the ladies singing, the men, those sounds. It's very, very... It's just not something that you've ever seen before in an adventure film. That combination of factors, that's what makes it a very special film. And the objective is... The Cold Feet objective was nothing. Yeah, that was an easy one. I just did it. This one, yeah, that one I know that it was before and after, I knew I'd just gotten away with something very good.
Damn. Can't wait for it.
Yeah.
When next year?
That's what I'm saying. Hopefully early. Hopefully.
Okay.
I give it early to mid. Yeah. The trailer, we'll see it soon.
Okay. Yeah, good stuff. So, like, next segment of the podcast is the answering your questions segment.
All right. Yeah, there's that.
That's where I ask my Instagram followers if they have any questions for you, and there are many questions for you.
Oh, wow.
So let's see. Question 1. I know you'll expect this question.
Yeah, I know exactly what's coming.
Uko na mtu.
Yeah, there we go. Moving on. My private life is my private life.
Ambia watu.
Nasikia, my private life is my private life. But you can shoot your shot. Okay.
You've done Batian solo.
Yeah.
Like how do you do it solo?
Because you can't walk off the back the way you can for Ololokwe. You have a rope in your bag, and you just climb it like that free. You get to the top, and nowadays most of it I can also free solo down. I can climb down. Then the really steep places, I just build an anchor and I abseil. And you just pull one end of the rope, it comes down, then you put the rope double, and then you abseil kama tu kawaida. Unashuka to the steep places. Hizi zingine napanda tu down climbing.
What?
Yeah.
So is it easier to do it solo or to do it like with a partner?
Obviously with a partner, because if you fall, you won't die. You probably won't die. Yeah.
And then you did a speed ascent of Batian. Like, that was free solo the whole way.
Yeah. So going back to that question you just asked.
Yeah.
If you're trying to beat a speed record, at least me,
Yeah.
I'll be slower with a partner. Because there's rope work and things like that. If it's just me and nothing, I just go. I just climb nonstop. So, what was the question?
So, like, would you do it again?
Yeah, because I didn't finish the route. It's like I could have smashed the record, but there was this very icy section between me and completion, and I almost killed myself trying to get past it. I was really riding that wave because I climbed the thing so fast. I got to where I got so unbelievably fast. So I didn't want to stop, and yeah, I almost lost my life now trying to free solo. Just icy rock.
Damn.
There.
What's the known record for Batian, like, base to summit?
So North Face, this is the North Face record, 2 hours and 8 minutes.
That's what you're trying to beat.
Yeah. And I would have smashed it if that ice wasn't there. Yeah, I would have probably done it in an hour and a half. Because I got above Farman's Tower in 54 minutes, and the rest of the climbing from there is just easy along the ridge.
Yeah.
And you're not even gaining altitude. You're just going like this.
Wow. When are you going to do it?
So, again, it's difficult when you work with a film crew now.
Yeah. Oh, because you have to document it.
Doesn't want me to just go and do it. I would have done it this year. But I think we'll just go there with some samburus and with the drone, and then I'll do it. I'll do it that time.
Yeah. Sawa.
Tena, he wants me to do it barefoot.
Barefoot solo.
Because the thing is, if I break the record with shoes, there's no way I'll be able to break it without shoes. The 2 hours and 8 minutes could potentially be broken without shoes. If I start again now training, now running barefoot and all those things. The thing is, I'm lazy sometimes. Climbing with the shoes is very nice.
Speaking of training, how do you train?
For
the
speed record, I just did it like my baseline fitness. I didn't run, I didn't do any cardio. Normally my training is the fact that I climb for work often. That's a good way to keep fit. Is like I just climb on and off. When I'm in Nairobi for some time, I go and I do mixed martial arts, kickboxing, and then I also occasionally lift weights. Otherwise, just kienyeji, just flipping tires, putting some slings somewhere and doing finger pull-ups. just to keep the fingers good. And barefoot 100-meter sprints, things like that. Yeah.
Summit suit or summit strip?
I I don't know. Maybe strip. Suit is a lot of work. Yeah.
How do you keep your feet warm after a hike?
They'll just get warm by themselves. If it's a hot hike, then they'll be hot already. If it's in the desert, if it's on the mountain, and it's a cold night, I'll just put on some socks. They'll get warm.
What's your mental preparation before a climb and while climbing?
So it depends on the climb. If it's just a normal climb, if I'm just taking someone up Nelion or Batian, then I just do it. If I'm doing a solo like the one on Ololokwe, then it'll depend on the objective. Yeah, if it's a big free solo, then I just have to meditate over it many nights and just say my prayers. If it's a hard spot or trad route with hard moves where I take many falls practicing, that one I just have to focus, go and just pull really hard with my muscles and just remember the moves. Yeah, but most of the time I just do it.
So like mentally you're just sharp.
I mean, you just live in the zone. That's the easiest way to do it. You can't keep switching on and switching off. Your mind and your body just in sync. This is what you do. You've been doing it so long, it just feels natural when you're doing these things.
Do you ever feel scared?
Yeah. But while soloing, no, because then I wouldn't be here today. I mean, there are some moments, like even on the Ololokwe solo in the beginning, when you're stepping across and holding these tiny things and there's just a lot of exposure below you and you don't feel like you're holding this thing very well, where you get like something in your stomach. But it's very easy to just breathe and control it. If you panic, you will die. Because you'll just freak out and you won't be able to move and you'll just be there and no one can help you because you're just alone, very high off the ground. But, sometimes, there's something happens, there's like a thunderstorm, whatever, where you feel some fear, but then you feel it, but you deal with the problem. Yeah.
How do you deal with muscle cramps, injuries that could occur?
So typically, you just try to be in shape so you don't get cramps or injuries. When I was guiding on Nelion in January, I'd been there for some time. I hadn't eaten very well or drunk very well. I was dehydrated. I got some serious cramps. That one, you just persevere through that section and massage. The cramp goes away. But I just try to be in good physical shape to avoid getting cramps to begin with. So it's very rare for me to get cramps. And when they happen, it's usually here, forearm, just because of how much gripping you're doing and then pulling up the rope. Sometimes it's just unavoidable. I've had some injuries. I've even had knee surgery, like falling and twisting things. And all those years as a teenager carrying 45 kg rucksacks up and down that mountain.
45 kilos.
Yeah. That did some damage, but that I healed very quickly. I started early stretching and physio, and then I just went to the gym and lifted weights, and it just went away. Became even stronger than before the injury.
What's your diet on and off the mountain?
I don't really have a diet. I just like eating clean food. I don't like processed meats. I don't like sweets or sodas or those things. Just very kienyeji. Typically, very often, I just eat one meal a day.
What do you like?
Fresh meat.
Specifically?
Mbuzi. Fresh, yeah. Which I just make. I cook. I love cooking. So I can make a stew. But yeah, if you're talking diet, very often I'll eat one meal a day when I'm not on the mountain.
And what's that meal?
A big chunk of mbuzi, some greens, some avocado, and some starch. Ugali, rice, cassava ugali. I really like cassava ugali. Yeah, I don't snack. And on the mountain, that's the only place at high altitude where your metabolism is faster, where maybe I'll have an apple or something on these climbs, or my client has chocolate and I'll eat it. But I like to condition my cells to just, your body has fat cells for a reason. And the little fat I have on my body seems to be enough to get me through even sometimes 2 days of physical exercise with no fuel.
The one meal is morning or evening?
Evening. So I'll wake up, I'll train for 6 hours, I won't eat anything. And then I'll just enjoy.
Indulge.
Yeah.
What drives you? Where does this passion come from?
It's kids play, adults also play. It's just that our playing looks different. That's where sports and these things come in. And so for me, I've just found myself, these extremes, they do it for me. Whether it's these combat sports, whether it's being in the mountain, just being physically fit and strong, that's a very good feeling when you know the things that your body is capable of doing and the conditions that it's capable of withstanding. That makes you feel good. Just even if I'm just sitting on the sofa and I think back, right now, if I get out of this sofa, the things I can do, the places I can reach, that's just a very nice feeling. It just motivates you to keep doing what you do. And also, I need to survive, I need to eat, I need to provide for myself, and my career happens to be doing these crazy things. So, as long as those two align like that together, I will keep doing it.
Speaking of crazy things, what's the next crazy one?
There's just a lot. So, Northern Kenya, a lot of projects, big walls in Gurunit. Most of them haven't been climbed. Things like that. I'm waiting for my finger to get better. I need to climb the east face of Poi. Those kind of things. Just pioneering the climbing in Northern Kenya, because there is literally walls there that are so difficult and that people just haven't even attempted, just because of how much work it'll be to put up a route on those walls. Yeah. And yeah, people don't know this. People think about Himalayas and they don't know. They don't know that here on Kenyan soil,
Kenya.
you have things that are just ridiculous. You have objectives that are just unimaginable. So just serious objectives on Kenyan soil, that's pretty much it. And guiding more people on Ololokwe, trying to make the main wall of Ololokwe, at least via Guinness and Goat. I'm trying to train more people and take more people up that wall, because I'm seeing a lot of people, a lot of excitement on Batian. It's good to sort of spread it out a bit and just get people psyched, climbing for the sake of climbing and not just ticking off summits.
And my next question is on Batian. Like, what experience does one need to climb?
You just need to know what the hell you're doing when you're on a big, steep wall, just you and a partner. Even if they know more than you, partner, guide, whatever it is, you need to be very competent at abseiling. And one thing that I know a lot of people don't do, even in training, which I've started insisting, people need to know how to catch a lead fall. It's very rare for your guide or whoever's leading, if they're solid. I've never actually fallen on Batian, but it could happen. And in that case, it's you who's feeding the rope for
Protect
your guide
you.
to catch the rope. No, so your guide doesn't break their legs or take huge falls or die. So you need to know how to catch a lead fall, and that's not complicated. It's very easy to learn. So yeah, people just need to learn how to be competent at abseiling. They need to know how to catch a lead fall. They need to understand all the gear and how the gear works. And above all, they just need to be comfortable being off the ground and climbing and moving, and they need to have taken some falls themselves. So again, they're just comfortable. So you can just climb really well, really hard, and
Make yourself fall.
yeah, you just get used to it. It's not even big falls when you're not leading. It's small little things. But people who don't do that, you see them on Batian and they're tense and they can't climb anything because they're so scared of falling. Someone who's used to falling, they just, if they see the next hold is up there, they just throw themselves and they get it. When you're confident, you climb well. It's like when you're boxing. If you're tense, you get very tired and you don't box well. But when you're relaxed, you can see the next punch coming, you can duck, you can sleep, you can move nicely. It's the same thing with climbing. If you're just comfortable and relaxed, you climb better than if you're just tense and scared of falling the whole time.
So, like for a beginner like me who wants to climb Batian,
Yeah.
how long would it take? How many lessons would I need to do before attempting Batian?
For me, typically the minimum, it'll depend person to person, but I've seen 8 to 10 sessions is usually enough for you to be at the very baseline. You can never be too skilled or too knowledgeable when you're attempting, even if you're being guided, because anything can happen and you need to know sometimes, what do I do if my guide is not feeling well, or if they're not capable of doing this and this, how can I assist? So you're not just being dragged up the mountain and dragged down the mountain. So you're an active participant, so you're an active team member. You and your guide are now working as a team to get to the summit and to get off, because that's how you do it now, effectively and efficiently. And you'll also you'll feel better about it, that you've gotten there and you put in the work, that you weren't dragged to the top.
People are dragged to the top.
In some cases, yes. And that's not good. Like, how you wouldn't feel good about that. Anyway, that question, I know you want to ask it.
Oh yeah, the next question. Cha muhimu ni summit.
Cha muhimu ni uhai. In my profession, cha muhimu ni safety. Tumefika mahali tulifika. If it's the summit, all well and good. Kama ni nusu sawa, lakini bora tumerudi. Tukikuwa salama. Yeah.
No, Spo Summit, unaweza rudi pia.
Unaweza rudi tu. Kwanza hii si Elephant Hill. This is now
The real climb.
This is a different level.
So, how does one get in touch with you?
Just send me a DM on Instagram. That seems to be the most common one. Otherwise, they can send me an email at pnaituli10@gmail.com. But Instagram, Afrovertical, DMs, yeah, I check them. Whether it's monkey business or whether it's professional stuff.
What's the budget for Batian?
Oof. Yeah, so depends on what people want, how many days, which route. It depends how supported they want the expedition, porters, things like that. And they also change with mafuta and all this and going up and down. I mean, I think the average nowadays for doing Nelion or Batian for the technical guide is between 40 and 50K. The technical, and then, the rest, transport getting there, food, porters, hizo vitu, they're now separate. But yeah, that one's better. They could consult whichever guide you want to take you. Kila mtu akona rate yake.
How many routes do you guide for Mount Kenya?
Well, technical routes, there's very many, because there's many peaks.
Yeah.
I can take you even ice climbing if you want to go ice climbing.
Yeah.
I can take you on the north and go down on the south. That one I can't answer. There are so many. On Nelion and Batian, it's 2 routes. If you want to be guided a slightly more complicated route like the southwest ridge of Batian, that would obviously cost more, and I would need to have trained you for some time. There's no limit to the routes I can take someone. It depends on their abilities. Yeah, and how I feel about that route. If it's a route that I feel I can lead, I can take someone, but I would have trained them for some time. Yeah.
Would you ever do that most dangerous route ever?
No. I wouldn't.
Okay. So any last words for the viewers, for the listeners also?
I'm just glad that this activity is picking up in our country, that more Kenyans are doing it. We definitely need to approach the outdoors with respect and with ethics. And whenever we do something, we need to be honest about it. If we are guided, if we get to a point where we're taking ourselves. And yeah, let's not litter. And let's just enjoy ourselves. It's good. It's good. Like I said, children play, adults play. And for us, our playgrounds is the mountains. And like most people say coming here, this podcast is a good way to just keep spreading awareness, keep having different opinions and voices. here talking about this activity that we love very much. So let's keep playing in the mountains, and I'll be here for those who want to climb some rocks. Yeah.
Cheers, Peter. Cheers for coming.
Asante for
Keep
having me.
doing all the crazy stuff that you do. It inspires all of us and everyone like watching and listening. Yeah. So yeah, and be safe, of course, when you climb all those things. So and that's our episode. See you on the next one.